No one noticed the janitor the way they noticed the CEO. Every morning, the glass doors of Asteron Tech slid open to applause-like greetings for Alina Hart, sharp suits, confident stride, the quiet authority of a woman who had built a billion-dollar empire before 40. Executives straightened their backs when she passed. Assistants whispered updates. Cameras waited. Alina saw it all and yet, somehow, missed the man who mopped the marble floors beneath her feet. His name was Daniel Reed. Daniel arrived before dawn and left long after sunset. He pushed his cart silently, careful not to disturb meetings or interrupt important conversations. His uniform was always clean, his movements precise. He worked with a kind of patience that suggested he'd learned long ago that rushing only led to mistakes, and he couldn't afford many of those anymore. On his breaks, he sat near the loading bay and ate a simple lunch, scrolling through photos on an old phone, a smiling little girl with bright eyes and a gap-toothed grin. That girl was Lily, his entire world. Daniel had not planned this life. Once, he'd studied engineering. Once, he'd had dreams that stretched far beyond polished hallways and cleaning schedules. But life had arrived like a storm. His wife had died suddenly, leaving him with a toddler and a mountain of grief. Bills followed grief like shadows. Degrees didn't pay daycare fees fast enough, and so Daniel took whatever work would let him be home in the evenings. Janitorial shifts, night work, quiet labor that asked little and paid just enough. What Daniel didn't know was that someone had started noticing him. It began with a complaint. A senior manager sent Alina an email about inefficiencies in cleaning schedules on the executive floor. Alina, who hated vague complaints, decided to see for herself. Late one evening, she stayed back, reviewing reports from her glass-walled office. Outside, the building grew quieter. Then she noticed the janitor. Daniel moved with care, adjusting chairs, wiping fingerprints from glass, aligning wastebaskets so the logo faced forward. He paused at a framed photo on a wall, an award ceremony from years ago, and straightened it gently, as if it mattered. Alina found herself watching longer than intended. The next night, she stayed late again. And again, she told herself it was curiosity, maybe even boredom. But there was something about the way Daniel worked, focused, calm, dignified. He wasn't rushing to finish, he was doing the job well. In a company obsessed with speed, that stood out. Then she overheard a phone call. Daniel stood near the elevators, voice low, apologetic. "I'll be there, Lily, I promise. Finish your homework with Mrs. Alvarez." "Okay, I know, sweetheart, I know you miss me too." Alina felt an unexpected tightness in her chest. The next day, she asked HR for a list of night staff schedules. It was an odd request for a CEO, but no one questioned her. That evening, when Daniel clocked out and stepped into the cool night air, Alina followed at a distance, her coat pulled tight, her heels replaced by flats she'd stashed in her office. She told herself she was ensuring employee safety. That was the excuse she repeated as Daniel boarded a bus and she followed in a car. The city changed as they traveled. Glass towers gave way to older buildings, quieter streets. Daniel got off near a small grocery store and walked 2 blocks to a modest apartment complex. Alina parked across the street and waited, feeling strangely nervous. Through a lit window on the second floor, she saw him open the door, and then a small figure ran into his arms. "Daddy," Lily's voice carried even from the street. Daniel laughed, a sound so full and unguarded that Alina froze. He lifted his daughter, spinning her gently, and the apartment filled with movement and warmth. Alina saw him kneel to her level, listening intently as she talked, nodding as if her words were the most important things in the world. Alina drove home shaken. She couldn't sleep that night. Images replayed in her mind. The way Daniel's shoulders relaxed the moment he stepped into that apartment, the joy in Lily's face, the quiet heroism of a man holding his world together without applause. Over the next week, Alina paid closer attention. She noticed how Daniel stayed late to clean conference rooms after heated meetings, how he fixed a loose chair leg without being asked, how he returned a lost wallet to security untouched. She noticed how tired he looked some mornings, and how he still smiled politely when people passed him without seeing him. One afternoon, Lily came to the office. Daniel had no other choice that day. School was closed unexpectedly, and childcare fell through. He asked permission from his supervisor, who reluctantly agreed as long as Lily stayed out of sight. Alina spotted the girl sitting quietly near the break room, coloring in a notebook. Daniel checked on her between tasks, worry etched into his face. Without thinking, Alina approached. Hello, she said gently, crouching down. That's a beautiful drawing. Lily beamed. It's a robot. My dad says robots can be kind. Alina looked up at Daniel, who had gone pale. I'm so sorry, Ms. Hart. It's fine, Alina said quickly. More than fine. She stood and extended her hand. I'm Alina. I know, Daniel said, embarrassed. I didn't mean to break any rules. You didn't, Alina replied. Actually, would Lily like to see something? Minutes later, Lily stood wide-eyed in the innovation lab, staring at prototypes and screens. Engineers paused, confused, as the CEO herself explained machines to a curious child. Daniel watched from the doorway, unsure how his ordinary life had collided with this extraordinary moment. After that day, things changed. Alina invited Daniel to her office, not to reprimand him, but to talk. She asked about his background, his studies, his challenges. Daniel answered honestly, expecting judgment but finding none. You're overqualified for your position, Alina said finally. Daniel smiled sadly. Life doesn't always care about qualifications. Alina leaned back, thoughtful. But I do. Within weeks, Daniel was enrolled in a company-sponsored program, flexible hours, tuition support, on-site childcare. His role expanded gradually, first assisting facilities management, then contributing to technical problem-solving no one realized he was capable of. Daniel struggled at first, fighting imposter syndrome and fear. But every evening, Lily waited for him with stories and questions and pride shining in her eyes. You fix big things now, Daddy, she said once. He laughed. I always fixed big things. I just didn't know it. For Alina, the change was quieter but deeper. Watching Daniel rebuild his life forced her to confront her own loneliness. She had built an empire but neglected the human stories within it, and within herself. She began changing company policies, not with press releases but with action. Better wages for support staff, education pathways, respect woven into culture. People noticed. Productivity rose. Loyalty deepened. Months later, at the annual company gathering, Alina stood on stage and told a story, not naming Daniel, but honoring him. Greatness, she said, is often working quietly, loving fiercely, and refusing to give up. Daniel listened from the crowd, Lily perched on his shoulders, clapping the loudest. After the applause faded, Alina approached him. Thank you, she said softly. For what? Daniel asked. For reminding me why any of this matters. In that moment, the distance between CEO and janitor vanished. There were just two people, changed by a simple act of seeing, and a future rewritten because someone chose to follow not suspicion, but empathy.